Tell me about the movie culture. You know, they say that life imitates art, imitates life again. And I'm just curious how much that affects you and your life. You know, where the movie becomes the reality becomes the movie, you know, and maybe in such a way where, you know, you were so much in love with this life where when you found out that night that your friends almost you turned on you and maybe your dad almost turned on you, you know, was part of that vision also from movies, you know, and did guys end up behaving like the movies as opposed to the movies behaving like the guys?
You know, it's funny you say that. You know, on my YouTube platform, every Monday I do Mob Movie Monday, and I kind of review or give my perspective. Today I'm doing The Godfather. Goes up at, you know, probably in the next hour, it'll be up on my YouTube channel. But, you know, with respect to The Godfather, which I think was the greatest mob movie ever made, if not one of the greatest movies ever made, I remember I was, you know, intimately aware of the goings on because it was filmed in the 70s in New York. Joe Colombo played a major role in that the production of that movie, meaning that he had a certain control over the script. He eliminated the word mafia and Cosa Nostra out of the script. He put some guys, you know, in the film like Luca Brasi, Lenny Montana, and Jimmy Kahn. You know, they were guys that were associated with us. And you know, Al Ruddy actually came to an Italian American civil rights meeting that we had when Joe Colombo, you know, had the league and explained to everybody what the movie was about. So we had some influence there. But I will tell you this: after that movie came out, guys on the street started carrying themselves differently because, you know, Don Corleone and Al Pacino, they brought a level of dignity to the mob that you hadn't seen before. They really did. And guys were using that. I mean, they were dressing differently. They were carrying themselves differently. It was amazing to see. So, you know, sometimes life does imitate art. But, you know, there's, look, I mean, I could talk about some of the good movies. Goodfellas was a pretty realistic portrayal of that life. So is Donnie Brasco. To me, one of the greatest movies that was made on that life, which a lot of people don't know about, was an HBO movie. It was the HBO movie Gotti with Armand Assante and Anthony Quinn. Brilliant movie. And I'm very familiar with that era because that was my era also, and I knew what was going on. So, you know, some of the movies get it and some of them don't. But Godfather 1 and 2, right at the top. They were 1 and 2, no doubt.
How about Casino?
Casino was great, you know, great. It was a pretty accurate portrayal. I mean, I knew some of the people there. I had met Tony Spilotro, the Pesci character, at one time. You know, a very dear friend of mine was part of the Hole in the Wall gang that's talked about in the casino. He's still alive in Vegas, and a very dear friend, great guy. And I know Oscar Goodman, who was the former mayor, former mob lawyer who played himself in the movie. He was Spilotro's attorney. So, you know, I have a lot of insight into that. And it was a pretty accurate portrayal of Lefty at that point, Rosenthal. So it was a good film. And, you know, anything Scorsese does is going to be great.
Yeah. And what about Donnie Brasco? What did you like about that resonated with you? I mean, I know you really liked Pacino's portrayal of that guy, but what did you see in there that really struck a chord?
You know, again, when I look at a movie like that, it's really about authenticity in the story and the characters and the dialogue. Pacino, I thought that was his best role. He just nailed the role. Everything that he did, his mannerisms, his actions, the way he spoke, the dialogue was brilliant. So authenticity means a lot to me, you know, and I know Joe Pistone, Donnie Brasco now. We met once during that time. Fortunately, I didn't do anything with them. But, you know, we've been in certain speaking events together. And I have to say, I think he's a really great guy. I mean, I really do. You know, and he's become a friend. But so, I mean, I have insight into that. And obviously, I knew those guys. I knew Lefty and I knew Sonny Black. And you know, it was pretty authentic.
Yeah, Donnie Brasco was interesting because it was one of the first times we saw that non-glamorous side, you know, guys that were struggling and, you know, the hard days, the guys that you knew but we didn't see on the movie screen. And you got to see that feeling of not everybody's an earner, not everyone's got the suits, not everyone's the mastermind. Some guys are struggling, you know?
Yeah, and that was the rule, not the exception. What you saw in that crew was very accurate. You know, guys were struggling to make a buck. I mean, there's some guys out there that say, oh, we were making millions. Not many guys are making millions, trust me. Guys at the top, yes. But you had to know how to use that life to benefit you in business. And if you did that, you got a good shot to earn. And, I think I was able to do that. Use what benefit the life could give you to benefit you in business.
Right. To take the same thing you would do legitimately, but use the connections and the lifestyle from the mafia to take it to the next level and do things you couldn't do in a legitimate sphere.
Exactly.
Right.
And on the street, when you can't tough guy everybody, because you just can't do that. People think you can extort everybody. I mean, it doesn't last. People don't like to be around guys like that. And, it's like I say, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. So, the best thing, Brian, was to make people like you and make people see a value in you. And then they want to be associated with you. But if you got the arm on them and you're extorting them and you're abusing them, they don't want to be around, and it's not going to last.